The final week of the 2025 regular season is upon us, and things are just heating up. And I'm not talking about the turkey in the oven, because that is not yet. We're talking about what's going on with Penn State football heading into the offseason. You know what? I don't know if you know this or not, but I am contractually obligated to bring up some sort of Thanksgiving related pun every single day this week. So that's your first one. Fitz always loves my my intros. Fitz, how you doing today?
I think, are you the one that misses the pre-Thanksgiving turkey or ham or all that kind of stuff press conference that goes around? I think
we had a conversation yesterday after Terry Smith's press conference where we didn't get to that, obviously, without James Franklin there, and I finally let it fly that I was so mad that for 12 years, not one question about my Thanksgiving meal. Because here's the deal, like a lot of people, will be like, well, why didn't you ask a question during the press conference, T. Frank? It's like, well, I'm in the back with the video team, so I'm a second-class citizen, and I didn't get to ask any questions for 12 years on Thanksgiving. So, no, I never got to give my thing. And here's the thing. I'm the Thanksgiving cook, so I'm the one who actually, I'm not just sitting there like some dad who just, I'm going to like break the wishbone, whatever. I'm actually cooking the meal. So I've got a lot of insight into what we have here in the T. Frank household for Thanksgiving. Now, one time,
this man some respect.
I'm really sorry, right, everyone. I apologize to all our listeners for that last minute. That's my fault. But I'm sure it's delicious.
Congratulations to Catron Allen and Nick Singleton for breaking records in the Penn State record book for rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. A really impressive duo that have been here for 4 years. Nate, somebody asked me this about Catron Allen last week of like, what's his legacy at Penn State and all those kind of conversations. But like, what does it say about these two that they got each different records for running backs at Penn State together?
About Catron or about both of them?
About both of them. Yeah.
Yeah. They ran. I hate records. I just hate them. I think it's so hard to compare eras of football.
Yeah.
Here's what I think is in the 4-year span of time that Nick Singleton and Catron Allen played football for Penn State, they were really good. Really, 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 really good. Really important to Penn State. The offensive line was important to those numbers, good and bad. The fact that they were a tandem for the whole time really speaks volumes about their buy-in for what was presented to them in the first place, right? Like it absolutely took a leap of faith from both of those guys to stay with Penn State after their first season when it became very, very clear that this is what it was going to be, right? Yeah. Because a lot of people don't want that. They want, I'm going to get the majority of the carries and I'm going to get the majority of the snaps and the touches and all of that stuff. And so the fact that they were both as productive as they were throughout their Penn State careers, I think it's absolutely a credit to Catron Allen, who, even last year, right? Like some of what's so fascinating to me about this dynamic is it has gone in waves, right? Yeah. These like Nick, his thing as a true freshman was the home runs. Auburn, right? That just like stick out in your mind of, oh man, like this guy can run for 60 yards at a clip anytime. And Catron is, hey man, this guy's a magician. He can turn nothing into something. And that something wasn't always the 60-yarder that it became this year, right? He unlocked that final level to what he could become. But it was always productive. Both of them were always productive. And certainly they've had great careers at Penn State.
Fitz, do you want to pontificate for a hot second?
I think it's worth it to appreciate greatness, and I think those guys have done some really great things. And I think that we sit here so much so much time spent poking holes in games and everything like that. And then, the numbers kind of speak for themselves in terms of what's going on or what has gone on in the last 4 years. I agree with Nate. The unselfishness there is worth lauding. I think it's pretty crazy to think about it because it doesn't make sense. Like from a personal brand perspective, especially for someone like Katron. Katron was the B player throughout his career here in terms of like exposure. I mean, Nick's got the Gatorade deals. He's got the Roback deals. He's got Roback's fantastic, by the way. I don't know if they're sponsoring today's show or not, but good stuff.
They are every one of them 20% off with promo code PSU20. It's in the description of the video,
and it's their Black Friday sale. But yes, Nick's got all that, and Katron just kind of ran the football. And I think there's, and it's so much more complex than that. But like for him to come in from he's a Virginia kid. He went to IMG, so sort of out of the region, to come in against a Pennsylvania boy and kind of weave himself into the fabric, just like the Berks County kid. I think it's pretty cool. So I think he's definitely somebody that I've appreciated watching, and you're probably going to appreciate when he missed. I mean, he just broke Evan Royster's record, and I'm not sure that there's a back since Royster that's kind of like found yardage like him. And Penn State's had some great ones, absolutely great ones, but it's been really interesting to think about kind of the comparisons of how they run, because they're not the most physically dominant running backs that we've ever seen come through here. They're not the most, elusive guys, but somehow they just keep gaining yards and falling forward and gaining more yards. So I think it's pretty cool that he would be the one to break that record, and pretty cool that he got it done by just running roughshod over Nebraska. Penn State beat the hell out of those guys this past weekend, and that's kind of the Katron Allen sort of salute.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, like you said, and to start off with like a 60-yard run, all of that felt like it was, as we said going into the game, Nate, a very Disney moment for Penn State in their final home game of the regular season. And part of that Disneyfication of the environment is the head coaching search, the backdrop of Terry Smith, I think pretty clearly and publicly campaigning to be the next head coach this past weekend, specifically in his final home game. We talked a lot about that on the Blue White Illustrated message board and all the things that went into his statements and opinions and feelings. So that is the story this past weekend. I did a 45-minute post-game show basically just about Terry Smith being the head coach, the whys and why nots. I left with just like, hey, what are the questions outside of the football stuff, out of the leadership stuff of football players, because he seems to have aced that part of the conversation, but the larger context of what it means to be a head coach. And I think he even talked a little bit about some of these things yesterday in the What Did You Learn segment of the conversation, but I just wanted to talk to you two, guys that are very plugged into the coaching search. I've given my thoughts here on the YouTube channel. I want to get your opinions, your thoughts on this latest narrative, which is it's obviously Terry is the public swing in the perception of the horse race right now. So, Nate, do you want to go first, or do you want to collect your thoughts and go second in this, in the word salad I just served you of like, hey, let's talk about Terry Smith?
No, I mean, first, I think you have to change that graphic to have just the shadow. What's that called?
That's what this is.
The silhouette.
This is a silhouette. It's just a very obvious silhouette because I was in a hurry.
Yeah, but it has to explode. It has to be like a monster truck rally, like just.
You mean like this one?
Yes, that would be so good. That would be so good, so much better. You can't listen. That guy is
just
the
pretend that the two are together. Just pretend that those are the same thing.
Fitz, stop it! Don't even look at me like that. He's the Virginia Tech coach. Penn State hates Virginia Tech. Everybody knows this.
Everybody knows there's a rivalry.
What was the question again?
What are the? Okay, let me ask you an actual question. Here's the thing. I didn't ask you a question. What are the parameters that are like in the consideration for what makes a good head coach, and how does Terry Smith fit into kind of the profile? Because everyone's seeing the success on the field and how Penn State looks so very different than they did at the beginning of the season. And I think even Terry Smith has said exactly why they look different and points to his abilities as a leader of men, as he said yet on Saturday. But what is it about the overall job, and what are some of the parameters that you are required to have as a head coach?
Yeah, this is okay. So I'm ready, and I'm saying this on the fly. So poke holes where you will. I think that college football coaching today, right? And this has become clear throughout this season. College football coaching is having trouble finding the balance between coaching like you're managing a roster that can decide to leave you at any time and managing and coaching a roster that you don't care if they do. That's it. And so Terry has been able to coach this Penn State team with no ramification. There's no recourse. There's no repercussion on the backside of it. He can be the truth teller. He can be the accountability man. He can embarrass guys in the team meeting on Sunday. And right. And it's not, I'm not saying it is meant to be an embarrassing thing, but he can do that because what does it matter? Empty the clip, right?
And
that whole.
You've seen it a couple times so far with him saying something in front of the media, coming back a couple days later and either apologizing for it or softening it. Like I thought it was really interesting yesterday when he was asked about being the candidate. Like compare his comments to Saturday night.
Very different.
They're very different, very measured. And I think, Nate, that you're like on the right track there in terms of like he can say whatever he wants. In this little bubble that we're in right now, which is the late November to however long he's the head coach, like that's stuff he's going to have to be accountable for. But on the big picture, I agree with you. He can be unabashedly himself with a lack of consequences. And it sounds like a bad thing, but like, it's worked in the last couple of weeks and they, on the field, I think it's showing through a little bit.
If you're the athletic director, if you're the fans, if you're like all of, and I get it. If you're any of these people, you're craving so much for that reckless abandonment to right? Like even James Franklin talking about letting it rip, right? Like just get out. You've prepared, you've done all this stuff. Just let it rip. That was the element that never happened under James for the first 6 games of the season. It wasn't, they never did it. Why? Because of expectations. There were heavy expectations. Yes, there were accountability issues in terms of being able to hold guys accountable because there are, if you come too hard at guys where you're criticizing them too demonstratively, they can tune out, they can quit, they can leave, they can do all of those things. You would love to be able to not have those concerns as the head coach of any football program, not just Penn State, but any football program. But when you're in that seat, those are the concerns that you ultimately have because you're not just worried about this year, you're worried about next year, the year after that.
Right.
It is why, listen to Nick Saban. Like, that's why he quit. That's why he didn't want to do this anymore, was because he couldn't coach. You can't coach. You can't, right? So, I don't know what the solution is to that other than finding guys who are willing to do that and then have the support of their administration to deal with the consequences when players say, yeah, that's not for me. Right. That's not for me. I don't want to be that guy who gets benched because my performance didn't meet the standard that you're looking for, right? I didn't come here to get benched. And guess what? There is somebody else out there who will gladly have the different set of standards to welcome that player into their program. And that's college football right now. I mean, it doesn't work.
Yeah. I don't know how anyone fixes that. So how are other teams having good football programs fits? Just that like they have more talent and those problems just go by the wayside. And is that what Penn State's looking for? Is like a guy, like, I don't know how that works. I don't know necessarily what the what the next head coach can do or be to magically fix that particular problem that Nate is pointing out, because I think that's a very fair thing. And again, it's something that that Terry Smith said very openly and frankly, that they didn't have accountability earlier, and now they have accountability. I don't want to have a circular conversation here, but I guess in the regards to the head coaching search, how do you address that? Like, what's the game plan for the guy who's going to get the job? Other than is it just money? Is it just like money to fix the problem?
Money goes a long way. I mean, we're talking about talent acquisition, right? Especially for a roster that should probably undergo quite a bit of change in the next couple of months. Even if Terry's hired, that's going to be something that he's going to have to deal with. Sort of looking down the road at, it's great that a lot of people are supporting him, but at the same time, you have to eventually make that decision, or eventually move on from the emotion of everything and make that decision for yourself. And that decision for yourself is going to come down to James being at Virginia Tech. It's going to come down to other opportunities where they can make double somewhere else. That's the stuff that's going to matter. So yes, money's going to go a long way. And I think that's the interesting thing with Terry is, so many years we've heard about all the money withheld and all that stuff from donations. And do we buy that? Not really. Like, cause there's always the goalpost that can move further down the field. But Terry is a guy that can mobilize people.
Yeah.
Like you saw that on Saturday night, I think is, excuse me.
I would say, isn't that like the main selling point here for Terry, is that like he has that deep connection to the fan base and has the ability to unify the fan base? Like that is one of the things that Pat Kraft put out there as a guidepost for the coach he wants to hire. And I would say Terry has that ability, right? I mean, it seems so.
I think absolutely he does. But also the ability to mobilize the fan base can come through winning. And
right,
Pat Kraft's job is to, number one, raise the most money to put together either a team, put together an entire athletic program entity, or anything like that. And the best way to do that is finding the best guy that can win. And does he think Terry's the best guy that can win? I think Terry's got a ton of qualities, and I love Terry. Terry's been fantastic to deal with over the last 12 years. But you're looking at a different conversation rather than, hey, this guy is the best Penn Stater for the job, and this is something where we have to circle the wagons and come back in and be that. Penn State hasn't had a Penn Stater as a head coach since before Rip Engel. Like I think that's probably getting lost in this, that you want to get caught in this bubble of seclusion that is central Pennsylvania, that is Penn State. And I just don't know that that's what Pat Kraft is seeing. And maybe those blinders are bad, but they could probably be really beneficial to this program from a winning standpoint. I mean, Terry's still 2-3. Like,
right.
I think they've played much different football under him. And obviously the 3 games that he lost are against better teams, tougher environments and things like that. But it is still 2-3. And that's below the standard of what you set, regardless of who the head coach is here.
Yeah. So on Saturday, I had a bunch of just kind of open-ended questions about the position. And Fitz, I want to throw one to you here again quickly, and then I want to kind of get to a bigger picture conversation about the coaching search. But it would be, we know Terry Smith is a great recruiter, so getting talent to Penn State is a big factor here. And I guess the question is, dominating an area versus being an elite recruiter on a national level, are those two skills, can you equate those? Or are those two separate things when it comes to the recruiting side of this, which I think is very important, and I think you have a lot of insight in?
Yeah, I think with Terry, he's very, very good, especially in specialized areas. So you mentioned Pittsburgh. You also mentioned his position. I mean, you look at his position room right now, it is Davian Collins is from down south, A.J. Harris from down south. Those guys transfers. Elliot Washington is from Florida. Darius Dixon's from California. So his ability to get his guys across the line. And look, Penn State is not a nationally recruiting program because of how difficult it is, the accessibility that we talked about 1,000 times. But they can pick and choose. And usually when they pick and choose, it's at certain positions. When Sider was here, it was Florida guys and running backs. With Terry, his backyard just happens to be a couple hours from campus. So that really helps. But also, like, look at the guys that he's gone out and gotten in region, guy like Jameer Johnson, outer region, guy like Darius Dixon. Like, he's all over the place because he is showing everyone right now what everybody likes Terry for a reason. Like there's because he can talk and he can back it up, and he will tell you the truth, and you will respect him for it. And that's not always the case. And I think that approach boils over to recruiting. How much do you take that into account in terms of recruiting as a head coach? It's tough because yes, you do a lot of recruiting as a head coach, but it's different. It's not the daily phone calls. It's not the, always being on top of a couple of different targets at your position or a couple of different guys in Pittsburgh. Like that's very different than what James Franklin was doing, whatever the head
You're
coach
the diplomat, right? So you're the guy who's going in and shaking hands and having 5-minute conversations with everybody instead of a guy who's like always in it, as you're describing. Is it right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's shaking the hands at midfield while usually you're running around, just kind of picking off who you can while coaching. It's a different sort of structure there. But I think he could do it, absolutely. But I think when you take a look at his specialties and things like that, a lot of it is, as most position coaches are, beholden to a region, beholden to a position. And I think that's where he's going. So yes, he could do it. Absolutely. Just from a personality standpoint, from a everybody loves Terry Smith standpoint, he could do it. From a how much does that matter in this search, especially when we saw last summer how much recruiting relationships mean and don't mean in the bottom line. And I think that's the thing when you're talking about that, you're weaving NIL, you're weaving fundraising for NIL into that. And if he can get both of those things done, it would be great. But it's probably a work in progress, as everything always is at Penn State.
There's a bunch more questions I'd like to ask, but we've got a bunch of other things to get to. So I guess, Nate, I just want to, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the bigger picture here outside of just Terry Smith. We're in the, oh my gosh, I heard about this with this coaching hire. You won't believe it. It reminds me of the vague booking when everyone first got Facebook in like 2010, where nobody knew how to use a status update. And it was just like feeling weird right now. Please ask me about it. And it's just like that's where we are right now, where people are just like leaving these ideas of, oh, I know something. So, Nate, I'm not asking you to do that, but what's the temperature right now on the Penn State coaching search with respect to the broad picture? Because what I'm getting is a lot of, you wouldn't believe what I know.
Yeah.
Please.
No, I think that's right. It's been a long time. I think that's the thing here with all of this, is that instead of a 2-week deal where somebody gets fired and then you hire somebody, a la Tom Allen to Jim Knowles, right? I think that took 2 weeks, and 2 weeks felt long.
It really
for
did.
That process. Well, this is coming up on 7, and everyone has heard something, which is fine. Like, I have no attachment to I know everything, right? That's not, I'm right. I'm right about everything.
Oh, okay. Very good distinction.
I'm kidding.
Very good distinction.
Just relax. No, but stuff's happening. This is the law of inevitability, right? In reporting, which is always fascinating to me, which is this is like Penn State will hire a football coach. They absolutely will hire a football coach. I have learned lessons that I am happy to acknowledge here in the time that all of this has happened, which is that, yes, it's crazy on the backside of this, right? Like the things that are actually happening. And it's not even related to plane tracking. It is very simply the notion that people change their minds. People don't make up their minds. And when you're dealing with not just one person who has to make up their mind, but dozens of people who have to make up their minds, then it becomes wild. And, I think that the way that Pat Kraft and the way that his team have handled this, of really casting a wide net, trying to get as many people consideration as makes you feel good that you've done your due diligence, narrowing lists, going through candidates, seeing who you mesh with, who you don't mesh with, but also not precluding yourselves from looping back, right? Guys who, like, you don't want to burn bridges. And so really everyone's in it, but along the way, you start to feel good about certain people. And along the way, there are going to be situations that don't work out. Mike Elko, right? They liked him and he was a target. Didn't work out. And he had an opportunity to sign an extension. Obviously the Matt Rule stuff early in the process that went by the wayside. So you just keep chipping away until you get near the finish line. And that's where I think everyone is maybe getting a little manic, which is this idea that, like, there's a hard deadline at the end of this week, that by the time that game ends on Saturday, they have to have somebody. Yeah. And they might, but I don't think it ends the world if they don't.
I'm sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, and then I did mean to cut you off. But I think there's an interesting thought here of our perception of the facts, right? So if you're covering this like Nate is covering this, or you're covering this like some of the journalists here locally that have insight and intel, are you picking your favorites? Like, because if there are so many candidates and it's like X feels good about Y and Y feels good about X, but then in another situation, X feels good about N and N feels good about X. So then you are like, if again, it's a horse race of all of these candidates. And so are you at a certain point gonna like call your shot, pick your favorite? If you're covering this, be like, okay, I have enough information that I think this is going to be the one that works out. And do you think that's going to kind of shape the way we talk about this as the media reports on it? Not you specifically, but generally as we go through this conversation.
You're saying from the media side of this, like,
yes,
and how fans are informed. No, I mean,
but because that's how we're informed about it, right? Is like
100%.
I'm hearing it's gonna be this guy, and you're just like,
right.
maybe, but like it's like 59% or you're 48%, but you're just going off the percentage you feel best about.
Yeah, but I don't ever concern myself with that. I'm just worried about what's the actual pecking order, right? And really the facts on this are that it narrows by groups, and then it narrows into 1, 2, 3, right? If this, then that. If this, then that. And you can play that out. And I think that's very clearly what's happening right now. My thing that's fascinating to watch in terms of the reception from Penn State fans is like, this is just universal at this point. But expectations are a hell of a drug. They are a hell of a drug. And when you get it in your head that whatever, right? Pick anybody that you want in this process. Urban Meyer, Kalen DeBoer, Marcus Freeman, Nick Saban, whatever path you want to go down, when that's your expectation, that you think somebody to have a splash hire has to fall into that name recognition category, then all of a sudden the parameters to be worried about have always been, who is the best coach for Penn State football, right? Who is the person who embodies that? And if Pat Kraft is approaching this as, hey man, I'm going to go out and get the biggest name recognition that makes everybody cheer, and I don't really care where he's from, what relationships he has, how much it costs, all of those things, then he's not doing his job. And that's where it gets super interesting, is everybody just has to wait until the pick is in and the pick agrees. You never get like more lessons learned. You never get your first pick. You never get it. That's not how it works.
That's not true. You only offer the job to one guy, and that was your top target all along.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I appreciate the insight into this, Nate, and Fitz, appreciate
beer.
You for
Drink beer.
Putting
Anti-fragile.
Yes, for putting a button on it. Now tell me about beer, as Nate just outlined.
Oh, I'm going to do that. Okay. Yes. Anti-Fragile Brewing, downtown State College. Sorry, I thought Nate was getting this one. But Nate and I were there on Friday with you, T. Frank. We met some more Penn State fans. We talked to some folks that we met down there multiple times. I talked to a friend of my college roommate's mother. Like, it was just so random that who you can run into an Anti-Fragile, who you can have a conversation with, and guess what? It's all great. The beer is great. The kombucha is great. The mixed drinks are great. The cheesesteaks out front, also great. Stop by if you're in the area. It is a holiday week at Anti-Fragile. They're going to be open today from 3:30 to 9. Tomorrow, Wednesday, 3:30 to 12 a.m. And then on the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they're open at 11:30. So pretty standard practice, even with the students out of town. It's nice to, if you're downtown shopping or something like that, step in there, have a beer, take a break, and then get back on with your day. It's a wonderful place to sit and socialize. It's a wonderful place to have a beer and have a conversation. So we thank them for our support. They've been awesome this fall. Obviously, the football season has not gone as planned, but the Fridays have been pretty great, I think.
Yeah.
So we thank them for that. We thank them for their support. If you get in there, tell them that you heard it on the Blue White Illustrated podcast. I can't tell you how many times bartenders, owners, everybody comes up and says, "Hey, we had a lot of people in here coming in from your podcast." It's been a really cool relationship. So we thank you guys for patronizing them. We thank them for supporting us. Check out Anti-Fragile next time you're in State College.
And also, holiday shopping in downtown is quite pleasant. Free parking, I think, during the holiday season. I don't care. Like, I'm not going to get into those particular details, but it's great to go downtown and State College even when there isn't a football game. So go check it out and go see them and say hi. And like Fitz said, tell them you came from us. Also, this show, if you haven't caught our Thursday recruiting show, we're not having one of those this week as a programming note. So I want to remind you that this show is brought to you by Ann Lusk Realty. The purchase of a sale or home is a major life milestone and one that deserves the guidance and experience of professionals. Lusk & Associates Sotheby's International Realty is known for delivering world-class service backed by trusted names and a commitment to excellence. Ann Lusk is a legend in the York, Harrisburg area, and she's moved her operation into State College as well throughout Happy Valley, and they want to offer you local expertise and global connections. So they can do anything. They can service any size of purchase, whether it is commercial real estate, luxury estate, or you're maybe looking for an investment property here in Happy Valley, or a home. You want to actually buy and live in the home. It's a shocking thing that that's what people do. Call 814-808-7588 or visit luskandassociates.com today. Lusk & Associates, Sotheby's International Realty, where experience meets excellence. Okay, let's talk more about Terry Smith. Want to get to this question here in the chat from Big Spirit, Big Ten Spirit. Appreciate him, and we didn't have enough time in the previous segment to get to it. But with the transfer portal open from January 2 to 16th, signing day February 4th, how is any coach we hire going to have time to field a competitive team? Fitz, we've talked about these logistics a couple of times, but is there enough time if they hire somebody in December to put all the wheels in motion to make sure you can retain who you want if you can, and then go get guys in the portal and build a recruiting class?
Yeah, there's time. I mean, it's going to be a very different team, I think, than you see right now. If things go like I think they're going to go. So number one, you make a hire either, I don't know, starting this weekend to December 10th or something like that. So number one is getting in there, meeting those guys, trying to convince them to stay, trying to put packages together to get guys to stay. I think that's the big thing, is mobilizing everybody, like from craft down, to figure out what your core needs to be for next year and move on from there. The 2026 class is a wash at this point, but I would recommend that you guys check out Jackson Ford's comments to Ryan Snyder this week. It was pretty interesting insight on how everything's working right now. But yeah, I mean, the portal window from January 2nd to 16th, that's going into the portal. So there are going to be a lot of guys that go into the portal, stay at their current school, but also take in their options throughout the spring, because there is no spring portal window. sort of covering yourself, by doing that. So I'm not saying you can count on that many people like fleshing it out until April, May, whatever it may be. But you're looking at a situation where those guys just have to be in the portal from the 2nd to the 16th and then go on from that. Now, Penn State's whoever the new coach is, going to have to get guys in quickly in the early part of that January window, because you want to sort of build out, right? You want to build out from the middle, see what you can get from whether you're bringing your own players, or you're bringing guys that you had past relationships with. That makes sense. You're not going to have as strong of a roster as you have right now. I mean, I don't think there's you can't look at this and say that there's any way that you can happen. And number two, a lot of the guys that are leaving, a lot of the starters that won't return weren't coming back anyway. A lot of graduation guys off to the NFL guys. So there was going to be massive turnover regardless. This gives you a little bit of juice to work with in January because you can sell the vision more so than selling what, think about how Penn State has sold receivers in the last couple of windows. It hasn't been, here's what's on tape. You can do this, because it hasn't been that impressive.
Right.
The new guy can come in. The new guy can say, here's what this is the vision. This is the forecast. So that helps with how Penn State's going to do it. And like I said, it's going to be a process. It's going to be very, very twisty, turny through all that stuff, because it's going to be guys that, Penn State's Penn State fans are used to seeing portals, from last year was USC, and from like-minded schools, from semi-tiers, same tier schools. I think you're probably going to see a bunch of guys from Ivy League, a bunch of guys from FCS and stuff like that pop up, and you're seeing a ton of those guys right now going into the portal or announcing their intentions to go into the portal, because that's how it works at that level. So you're going to be just sort of spackling, finding different guys, and there's going to be guys that pop up out of nowhere that we're not going to be aware of. So, but we're going to do our best on BlueWhaleIllustrated.com. Check it out. Starting with $1, we have a Black Friday sale coming up as well. But it's going to be a process, and it's going to be first and foremost, the first step, get the guys back that you can get back. And like I said, there's going to be a bunch of guys that are wearing blue and white this year that are probably going to be Hokies next year. Second is to figure out what your situation is with the players that you previously coached, or the players that you previously had a relationship with. And then it's open season in the portal. So I think that's kind of how you approach that. 2026 is what it is in terms of recruiting. There's not much that you can do to spin this around. Your perfect situation is hire a guy on Sunday, and he's able to bring guys from his current class, and you're able to spin a couple guys that you had previously committed. Mm-hmm. The likelihood of that, I don't know, because you're not looking at Sunday as a deadline. You're looking at it as a potential off-ramp, a potential landmark that you have to work with. So that's where you're looking from a roster building perspective. There is time. Are you going to put together the best roster that's ever been at Penn State? No, you're not. It's going to be just very interesting how all certain 1,000 points of light come together.
I apologize. I wasn't in the meeting on our Black Friday deal. Are we talking about that right now? I don't even know what the Black Friday deal is at this point.
We'll come back around to that. I have to look that up as well.
Good. I'm glad we're on the same page.
I know it exists. So that's about all I got right now.
I have a number in my head, and I don't know if that's true or not, so I'm absolutely not going to say it out loud. Let's get to something we do know, and I want to talk about this particular point, but we can have this conversation about what's the difference in the Penn State offensive line. Terry Smith made it a very fine and clear reason why Penn State's running the ball better and the offensive line is playing better.
There's a point of emphasis that we're going to run the football. Period.
Pretty clear. Terry Smith it's very interesting to watch him talk because nobody knows when he's done. And so I actually, the funny thing, Nate, and I'll throw this one to you to get your thoughts. I have some thoughts here as well. Run the ball, period, is both him saying I'm done talking, and also I think informs exactly the context of we're going to run the ball. So what did you take from that comment?
Yeah, that. I took that. I struggle a little bit. I struggle. And I think you know why I struggle. I think they tried to establish a passing game in the first part of the season so that they could run the ball in the second part of the season. And that didn't work out against those teams. And like committing to it now is totally warranted and will yield results against a Nebraska team that has given up 150 plus yards rushing to 7 of its 10 opponents this season. Right. I just think that there's some needed context here to say, like, the plan at the beginning of the season was to win a national championship. And there were certain steps that needed to happen, that needed to develop within this roster and this team for that to be a possibility. And that didn't happen. Absolutely, right? Like Hindenburg spectacular crash. Yeah. But the idea behind it wasn't, I don't think, necessarily misplaced, particularly in light of some of the failures of performance that existed comprehensively.
Yeah.
Offensive line, running backs,
receivers,
passing game,
coordinating.
All of it.
Yeah. So to me, like, this is something I brought up on our Wednesday or Monday video, and I just want to talk about it here because as much as I hate repeating myself, I think it is the period when he says period. So Penn State at the beginning of the season ran what you're talking about, Nate, and I think that it's funny. They were trying to run a pro style offense in a sense where they were not running a whole lot of RPO. And then when Drew Aller gets hurt, their RPO usage I did it too. I did it. See, I did the same thing. I made RPO and read option the same thing. Read option, running the quarterback. They were not doing that a whole lot at the beginning of the season. And then Drew Aller gets hurt. And so what do? For the next 3 games, they have 40 read option plays. In the last 2 games, they've had 5 and 8. And so when he says we're going to run the ball, period, no options, the running backs are going to run the football. And we're going to have good concepts where the running backs can just get the ball and read. And to me, like, I may be reading into that, but there is a stark difference in the play calling, even, outside of that one drive against Indiana with 4 minutes left where they decided to option themselves to death. They have been running the football. Fitz, do you think that's reading into it too much, or do you think that there's something there?
Probably both. I've never known you to read into anything too much. So I'm just going to give you the both on this one. Yes. And I do think it's a symbiotic relationship, right? It's the passing game helping out the run game. It's the run game helping out the play action game. And voila. How about that? How many times were you saying that early in the season, T. Frank, in terms of what they were looking to do? And yes, it's wonderful to have an option to run the football with your quarterback. And I think that, whoever is playing quarterback for Virginia Tech next year is going to find that out. But also, yeah, there's an alternative here, and they've turned on that alternative. And I give Terry a lot of credit because they've changed their forecast. They've changed. Yeah. They go under center now. They do some things that are very proper, I don't know, from an offensive perspective. And
they've turned the clock back. Somebody asked me, like, is this more of a whatever? And I said, no. This offense is like 2005 football. They run the ball, they play action, hard fakes.
Forward. They move forward. Yeah. they press forward as opposed to going side to side. And that, again, all season was the criticism. And there's warranted points here in the chat that against Michigan State and Nebraska, 2 teams that they should be able to run over, and credit them, they did. And
but they didn't early in the year. So I do want to at least emphasize that
no doubt.
FIU, they didn't. Yeah.
Bowl eligible FIU, by the way.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah. How about that?
This next one from Terry is more about the conversation we just had. And I think it's interesting. I also apologize. I want to apologize for asking him an interview question out loud in public. But what does the team look like under Terry Smith? Because we've talked about he had to take over from James Franklin and institute these changes. And he's talked about how he didn't really know the offense, so it took him a little bit to change the offense and understand where the adaptations need to be. what would it look like if you just built the plan from January? What is your belief in football on offense and defense?
Well, I'm the head coach right here, right now, so this is my offense, and this is my defense and my special teams. I can't really answer that question because I'm grounded in the moment and just trying to make sure this team is efficient in what we're doing right now. I do like how we played Saturday with balance, almost equal passing yards with rushing yards, physical attacking defense, just like what you saw on Saturday. Those are the type of things you're looking for to be successful.
So I'm curious to kind of circle back to our conversation previously. Like I make these determinations on the field in terms of like what I understand about football and coaching. And so I'm curious in the long run of the conversation, is Terry Smith Sharon Moore? Is it like we're going to run the football and be Michigan if Terry Smith is the head coach and play action, kind of old school football? And I don't know if he answered that question there, but I guess what do you think generally of like what a Terry Smith offense and defense would look like? Do you have any idea?
No idea. Because
Okay.
if the offense was still struggling, would it be his offense? I mean,
Right.
There's very
Yeah.
different things going on, and also he's got a backup quarterback playing. He's got a guy that they're trying to keep out of the crosshairs. And what do you do there? You lean on your two really, really good running backs and your offensive line that should be really, really good. That's played better in the last couple of weeks when they move forward, believe it or not. So you've got that going for you. But yeah, I mean, it's I think it stems from the quarterback. And it's very interesting to me that last year, and Nate, you alluded to this after the game and on the post game on our instant analysis or whatever, you felt like Penn State was going to be able just to run it back and roll over what they did in the playoff last year and get their way back to the playoff, get their way back to the championship here. So what they did in the playoff last year was play a similar style offense, what they're doing right now, and hide the quarterback for whatever reason. Like Drew, as uber talented as he was, he was not the focal point of what Penn State was trying to do in the playoff. Part of that was playing a 20 degrees Beaver Stadium game in December in the wind. Like you go to the necessity of what you have to do in that situation. Well, Penn State decided that they would run it back, but also open it up to these new receivers, to Drew, to new tight ends and all that kind of stuff. And you kind of lost your way in that sense. I think you've asked about the identity a couple of times, and Terry has been very short period. But it's been that kind of thing that everyone was looking at this team as the team that could road grade its way to whatever it wanted to do. And that's why the floor was so high. And then you get away from that and you're 5-6 ball club. And I know that's not the drastic cliff that you were looking to jump off of. But you're looking at a team that's, I don't want to say finally realizing its potential, but finally realizing what it is.
Yeah. And it's interesting how they've gone through several iterations this year because they wanted to be a deep shot team and take advantage of Drew Aller's arm strength, his potential, make him a number 1 overall pick. Didn't really have the horses to do it. I think also including Aller, not really having confidence to put that ball perfectly on where he wanted it all the time. Still was kind of working through, throwing it some short sometimes to draw those PIs instead of getting that perfectly placed pass, and then pivoting to more of a ball distribution offense and passing the ball and moving it around to different receivers. And the run game was not working. And I think, as Terry Smith has pointed out, partly because they're going to run the ball, period. Nate, you got your forward stance. What do you got?
Maybe I just don't understand, but doesn't everybody just want to have an answer for everything?
Offensively? Just in general?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. Very much so.
So you just doesn't mean that's what your identity is. You can have the strength that you lean into the most, but if you're positioning yourself to win a national championship, if that's what you want to do as a program, you better have more than one trick.
Yeah. Which I would say, like, I don't know if this particular iteration that's been winning and working has more than one trick. And let's get into that. This is a great transition. Penn State versus Nebraska. They didn't need much more than that because Katron Allen, from the very first drive, decided that he was going to break the record at home and was excellent in that game. Nate, what did you think? Just generally your thoughts on the game. We haven't really talked about it a whole lot. What did you think was the big difference here that's unlocked them in this 2-game winning streak?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, for Nebraska to have a 50-yard run on the third play of the game, whatever it was, the fact that the same thing happened at Michigan State, I was somewhat stunned, right? That hadn't been cleaned up, that could happen again in a similar circumstance, and then to not roll over, right? To have steadied themselves after that play and get the fourth down stop. I mean, really 4 downs, right? You're dealing with first and goal at the 7 or 8, and to get a stop at the 2-yard line, and then do the thing that they've done. I mean, did they? I don't have the drive chart in front of me, but like they just scored points every time they scored. The ball
they scored. I think they scored every single time they touched the ball in the first half on five straight possessions. Yeah.
And so it look like I do, and I know that there are trains of thought that momentum isn't really a thing, but I don't believe those trains of thought. And I think that complementary football is a thing, and defense getting that stop and then being able to parlay it into points, it just set up for feeling good from the beginning, and that accumulated over the course of the rest of the game. And you saw really all facets of that working, offensively and defensively. And look, Nebraska's in a bad way. That's not in any way to say that their quarterback didn't have some nice throws. I thought he did.
Can I jump in quickly?
Yeah, please.
Their game plan was the opposite. Their game plan was what Penn State was using against Ohio State. It was the meek shall not inherit this football game, because they were throwing the ball underneath, quick game, very tentative with the quarterback and trying to run the ball. They also, I felt like, hadn't seen, like, did they just skip film study of Penn State? Because the things that have worked almost every single game against Penn State, they didn't do any of them. They didn't put anyone in the backfield. They didn't have a lead blocker come through the A-gap. They didn't use any of those tactics that have just guaranteed 9 yards of carry. And so Penn State got them in second and long situations. That game plan from Nebraska was just so bad. Like I was surprised at how tentative that was. Fitz,
terrible coach. Don't hire
terrible
him.
coach. Oh no. There you did it. No, I mean, I'm going back to kind of what you just said. I think that was kind of the Iowa game plan for Penn State, was for Grunk to throw stuff close to the line of scrimmage, get the ball out of his hand. And I think that's the right thing to do with a backup quarterback that's, very young in his development, very young in his starting development. I also thought it was interesting. I just went back and looked. Drew Aller had 4 games over his 3 years. It actually may have been a 5th game in there that I missed, where he threw fewer than 20 passes, like 20 attempts. I'm just wondering if Penn State does this early in the season where they run the football and Drew throws 12 times, like there's going to be criticism there. Like, I think it's a lot of it is about what can you do for these players, but also, like, has that always been the approach? Has that always been the ultimate goal, to get this kind of performance while not feeding every mouth, if you will? Because 12 pass attempts means fewer catches, probably fewer routes run. And that's just the interesting dynamic that I look at this team under Grunk and under Drew, is you don't have to overserve Grunk, which kind of has opened it up for a lot of people. So I just think that that's very interesting when you look at it. And hey, 11-12. I know what, like, our criticism here is he took a bad sack, like that. You'll take that every week, and regardless of who you're playing, if it's a Big Ten conference opponent. So I think that's an interesting way of looking at it, because this offense sort of neutered itself in terms of trying to make everybody happy, I think. And that's part of the reason I think James Franklin's not here anymore.
Yeah, they tried to build around the quarterback, but they built around the quarterback with subpar receivers and maybe a quarterback that didn't in the end deserve building around. I mean, certain players, and I'm this is both unfair, but also like it is what it is at this point. He didn't elevate the situation. Drew Aller didn't fix it all. And some quarterbacks can just fix it all because they're ultra talented and they'll just make plays. And maybe that's not Drew Aller. Maybe he's a good quarterback within the right context situation. But like that was the story this year, was guys were not open. And so when they pivoted to building around Katron Allen, now the receivers are open because they're building around the player that makes plays work, even when they aren't perfect. And that's just like his superpower, right? And now, like, people are saying Ethan Grunkmeyer is a better quarterback than Drew Aller, and they're running completely different offenses. There are not reads in this offense for Ethan Grunkmeyer very often. He is play action, flood concept, A or B, right? That's it. And A is wide open a lot when he's throwing the ball. In full read situations, still struggling a bit. And by the way, I was the guy saying, like, let him throw. Like, let him, don't do the horizontal air raid. But there are, like, when we a bridge too far as, yeah, and if he'd been playing all year, Penn State would be a national championship. No, also not that. The defense played really well. I noticed a more attacking style, especially up front. Feels like they found a good middle ground between Jim Knowles' desire for his maniacal control up front, but also the attacking style defense of letting Dennis Sutton just run upfield and destroy some offensive run concepts. That's what I noticed. What did you guys notice about the defense and how they were able to stop the run? Because again, I'll give you a stat that I found this week. 2.4 yards per carry on first and second down in the first half. So they just shut down the run when the run mattered in that game. And I'm just curious what you guys thought of how they were able to go about doing that, Fitz.
From watching Penn State's running game early in the season, the most trouble that the Penn State running backs had was the backside pursuit and the backside defensive end crashing down and making plays. Penn State's defensive ends over the weekend were fantastic at this in terms of they were like honestly Jimmy Superfly Snuka across the line, just like falling on, like Ivan Kamaju was like Spider-Man jumping on these guys. It was incredible to watch. They were down the line. Now that can get you caught if you are not worried, or if you're not as much worried about the quarterback pulling the ball, which is going back to what Penn State did earlier in the season, exactly what happened. But I thought Penn State's pursuit and their ability to get down the line of scrimmage to make those plays was fantastic. They still, had a couple of tackling issues, but for the most part, as sound as we've seen them in the last 2 weeks. Now, granted, I don't think that those were dynamic offenses. I don't think that those offenses really were able to challenge you on the outside, which helps everybody else. But at the same time, watching this defense in the last couple of weeks, it's really come along. And it's like, it's kind of like the conversation we're having the offense. Yeah, there's little caveats that, would lend themselves to natural improvement. Natural guys getting better over the season, but also the guys are in the right spot now and they're making the plays, as opposed to guys being a half step out of the right spot and missing the play. And which is a lot we've seen. Like T-Frank, I'm not sure if this is, and you've watched this closer to me, is this schematically Knowles' defense being executed now, or is it changing up what Jim Knowles has been asking of these guys to sort of meet in the middle? Because earlier this season, we had this talk, like Jim Knowles knows what he's doing. He's putting guys in the spots that they're supposed to be, and whether Penn State's not getting there or missing a tackle or something like that, it really exposed a lot of the sort of the back end and like the underbelly of what can happen against that kind of defense. But now I think they're getting to the right spots, and lo and behold, it's actually a good defense.
So, yeah, they are playing a little. So it's interesting. There always are. There's everything in every defense. So run stunts, meaning you change gaps for defensive linemen up front on a run play. They had that in the offense or in the defense. They did that early in the year. But the way they're doing it now, they're more attacking. They're more vertical in this. So there has been a little bit of a change. But for the most part, it is just the Jim Knowles defense. This is what I'm really interested in as kind of the long view of this. If he were to stay, and now that he's been exposed to this attacking style, he incorporated things from Ohio State and built functionally a new defensive structure that he tried to bring to Penn State that won a national championship and was suffocating at Ohio State. With this new struggle and then evolution, does that produce something that's more of a hybrid on the other side of this? Because there are more aggressive attacking elements that they've incorporated into the larger picture of they're still running some of their stuff that they did previously. And I think that could be a benefit long term. But yeah, it's a little bit of both. They actually did, again, Terry Smith, his impact on the team is he streamlined the offense. We're doing X, Y, and Z. And then on the defensive side, they implemented their parallel package, and they also, I think, found a better way to use the defensive line because they're getting better at double teams. That's part of it. Absolutely. You have to be better at that. And the defensive tackles have been better there. That's the old part of it. But as you mentioned, the defensive ends have been given more of a green light to just go hunt. And I think that's a big change for this team.
And not just straight up the field either. Not just straight up the field, which is where they were hunting against UCLA. And that's where they got bit. You know, it's just like they've done a nice job of all together. And hey, Denai Dennis Sutton was absent for most of the first half of the season, and to his credit, he's bounced back and done some really great things. Zane Durant was player of the game on Saturday. So these guys, they're getting it from their stars, they're getting it from their upperclassmen, and I think that's a tribute to going back to the Terry conversation of getting these guys in the right spots and getting these guys confident again.
Nate, final thoughts here on the show.
Yeah, I think the point that Terry has hammered home about what film do you want to put in front of your next employer is impactful here, right? And it's not something that wasn't on their minds at the beginning of the season, but as game after game, because I mean, look, let's be honest about really the conversation up until the past 2 weeks was, man, that's a senior class that other than Katron Allen and maybe Vega did not even match last year's performance, let alone exceed on it. And that being problematic. And I think you've seen better. I mean, obviously Denai last week and this week, and Nick, right, has been better over the last 2 or 3 weeks. I just think that there have been performances. Obviously, Drew can't change anything, but there have been performances that have been better, and kind of, you know, help rectify some of the sins of the past.
Put a good final note on that particular, I guess, a good final scene on this story that they're writing, as to use Terry Smith's metaphor, that they're sharpening the pencil, they're writing the script, and they're writing a final scene that they're proud of, even if it didn't go their way in the beginning of the season. So we're going to come back and talk more about that because they play Rutgers Saturday at 3:30, and tomorrow we're going to have the BWI Live show. We're going to give a game preview, predictions, all that kind of stuff, because as we mentioned, we're off Thursday and Friday, so no wrestling show this week with wrestling off, no Thursday recruiting show, and no Friday 5 things this week, because we want you to enjoy that time with your family. Don't be stuck on the internet watching. You can rewatch our videos if you want, but like we're going to be doing that as well, enjoying time with our family. So Fitz, Nate, you guys aren't going to be back this week, so thank you very much for everything you do, and we'll do more during the holidays and thankfulness and whatever, but happy Thanksgiving to both of you guys. Thanks for all you do here on this Tuesday show, because this is one of the best things that we do on the channel and one of the most popular, so that has a lot to do with you guys being here, giving great insight about all the things behind the scenes and on the field, so appreciate you guys. That'll do it for today on the BWI Live show. We'll be back tomorrow. See ya.